All right, enough draft. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, Gab.
Dani Olmo scores the only goal as Barcelona down Mallorca 1-0. Jules, no Lewandowski, so just the 40 shots on goal for Hansi Flick's crew.
Yeah, Ferran Torres plays as a number 9. And to be fair, it was really good fun to watch if you'd watched that game. Leo Roman, the Mallorca goalkeeper, who never plays, had to make 14 saves or something like that. Not all very difficult, but some very difficult. But really, you watch this game for Pedri because this was his game. He was incredible from start to finish. I think he's the best midfielder in the world right now. I don't think anybody can come close even. He's just so good, even in that deeper position. So it was an absolute joy to watch. And for Barca, that game was on Tuesday, right? So they put pressure on Real Madrid, we will talk about later. That plays on Wednesday.
The reinvention of Pedri into a deeper position this year, I think, is actually an underreported story. Crazy as it sounds, but it's like the third or fourth biggest story out of Barcelona, and maybe should be much higher.
Yeah. Milan blow away Inter 3-0 in the second leg of their Coppa Italia semi-final on Wednesday night. Gab, no quadruple then for Inzaghi. What happened?
Well, at least I'm kind of happy that we won't have to hear this talk anymore because it was kind of silly to begin with. Like, he made his changes. He's got bigger fish to fry. He's got the Barcelona game. He doesn't say this. He says, I have my squad. I rotate, blah, blah, blah. I thought Inter were actually pretty good in the first half. Magic Mike made some big saves. And then in the second half, of all people, Luka Jovic. Luka Jovic has scored more goals than Santi Jimenez since Jimenez arrived. It's not good for Jimenez. The 3-4-3 working, I guess, for Conceição, who, don't worry, he's still going to go at the end of the season. Take his cigars with him. But it's really big for Milan. For Inter, I think they ran out of legs in the second half.
Of the 3 competitions, I know, because really, we said quadruple. It's
the four, which are the Club World Cup.
Yeah, but of the 3 that are playing right now, because the Club World Cup, they haven't started, it's the one that you want to lose, right? Not the Champions League, not the league.
Yeah, no question about it. But it's not like they made a choice to lose it.
True.
And I think it's still a derby, and it still really stings. But impressive from Milan, but Milan have the quality individuals. We know that. Arsenal and Palace battled to a 2-2 draw, which means Liverpool have to wait a few more days to celebrate their title. Jules, you're a big Mateta guy. Boom, boom, boom. How about that?
Incredible finish. Really sloppy from Saliba to kind of mispass the ball, but then from such a big guy like Mateta, not the most technical, as in we talked about Pedri before, Mateta and Pedri not in the same league technically, but to chip the ball like he did, or like a dead leaf, we say in French, the feuille morte, like those old school free kick that Michel Platini used to score, that just to drop that ball like that, incredible, really incredible. I know some people have questioned maybe Raya's position, but he obviously opened the angle for the pass from Saliba, and that's why he then had to run a bit to try to make that space again. But from Mateta, wonderful, especially since the last 3 games, he was not at his best, neither were Palace, but that was perfect. 3 days before the FA Cup semi-final against Aston Villa on Saturday at Wembley. So well done to him for one of the goals of the season, I think.
Were you surprised that he played so many starters? I guess the Champions League is a week away, so why not?
Yeah. I think it was a very strong Arsenal team apart from Bukayo Saka. Really, the others will be the starting lineup for, without Partey for the first leg, with Partey and probably not Trossard for the second leg, and with Merino in the first leg. But yeah, very strong from Palace and Glasner too, to be fair, apart from Ismail Assar. And the rest was very strong 3 days before and then Ketia 3 days before the FA Cup. But yeah, I think it worked for them. And sticking with Arsenal, Gabby, David Ornstein and many others, I mean, this was a no-brainer, said that Thomas Partey was a free agent in June, could be extending his contract. We heard Mikel Arteta saying last week that he wanted him to stay, so it's pretty logical. But you and Mark think it's not a good idea.
No, I think it's a terrible idea for many reasons. There's obviously the reasons that we can't, that are out there, and that maybe are not footballing reasons, but like his age, for example, or his salary. The fact that Ornstein and others again suggested, he might be getting improved terms, makes me think that this is his camp talking. If I were Arsenal, this is exactly what I'd be doing. I'd be talking up Thomas Partey. Maybe I'd get more leverage for Zubimendi. But once you know that Zubimendi is in the bag, for me, there is no reason to then spend a lot of money on this guy, even for a year or 2 years. In fact, maybe you're doing this maybe you're considering it as an alternative to Zubimendi. Maybe you get leverage over Zubimendi. But no, I think it's definitely 1,000% for many, many reasons time to move on. But we'll be discussing this further. Mark and I are we did our Arsenal keep and or dump series, and unsurprisingly, Arsenal are in a very strong position, and Mark is obsessed with getting a big-time center forward, where, of course, I'm still Team Kai Havertz, but I suggest maybe Mateta as a backup to Havertz.
Yeah.
What do you think? Would you like Mateta? Would you have Mateta at Arsenal?
Yeah.
As a reserve?
That's not going to happen. But yeah.
Mateta, Strand Larsen?
Oh, my God. I love that. Yeah. Johan Wissa? Here we go.
Arda Güler helps Real Madrid to a 1-0 win away to Getafe at the Coliseum. Jules, a lot of changes out of the Copa del Rey final. And again, Courtois saving their bacon at the end.
I never thought I would say that, but Getafe had more shot, more chances,
more XG.
High expected goals than Real Madrid. Please. Getafe, the most defensive team in the whole defense of the whole entire defensive world. So how you watch this game and you feel like, again, I know Arda Güler scored a lovely goal and there was a couple of other chances for Real Madrid, and there was a lot of rotation, as you said. No Rudiger,
Endrick,
no
not
Mbappe.
happy.
Yeah, Endrick. But come on, man. I don't like. It's just not. It's not good enough for me from a Real Madrid point of view. Tactically, technically, what they do, the performances. I don't know. I just don't like it really.
They haven't had a big, clean, comfortable win in ages.
Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, Gab, the Athletic reports that Carlo Ancelotti is in advanced talks with the Brazilian FA, and we've been here before.
Yeah, of course. This is, advanced talks. The Brazilian FA saying, no, the only people authorized to talk are Reginaldo, who's the president, and some other dude who actually wasn't in Madrid. Carlo Ancelotti doesn't need to be in advanced talks with anyone. There's nothing to talk about. He's going to stay at Real Madrid until Real Madrid tell him to leave. That's very, very obvious. For the future at the same time. And related to this is Fernando Carro, who is the chief executive of Bayer Leverkusen. He's very explicit. He said, maybe it's 50-50 that Xabi Alonso leaves. And of course, he's got a gentleman's agreement where he can go to one of his older clubs. He's not going to go to Liverpool. I think we know that. So obviously he has also played for Real Madrid. He's also played for Bayern. I'd be a little bit worried about that one there, guys. Fernando. So watch the space. I mean, certainly, I don't think he can turn around Real Madrid in 1 year. Xabi Alonso. It's just not that type of manager. But yeah, watch the space. It's going to be huge when it happens. Let's rewind to Monday night. Tottenham Hotspur lose again, beaten 2-1 at home by Nottingham Forest. Jules, but maybe we shouldn't be surprised that number 4 in the table wins away to number 16 in the table.
Yeah, and I think this game summed up very well Spurs' season, saying that they could not defend for their lives and conceded two poor goals to concede so bad between Vicario's mistake on the Wood goal and the poor deflection and stuff on the first goal from Elliot Anderson. And then they had chances. They could have scored before even that late Richarlison goal. They could not. I mean, they could not score. They could not even hit the ball hit the tire. It was just so Spursy, so bad. And you're right. It's probably normal. What we expected, really.
It just looks so disorganized. But that's huge for Forest. Yeah, really big 3
massive
points.
Win for Forest. Juventus have slipped to 5th in Serie A now, as Matteo Pellegrino's header means that they lose away at Parma 1-0. I thought things were supposed to be better, and that you go 2 though.
They are better in the sense that the general vibe is better. They're playing rational football. I think they were penalized in this game. Vlahovic picking up an injury, subbed at halftime. He didn't start Kenan Yildiz. He should start. I don't want to see
Colomwani behind the striker.
I don't really need to see much of Colomwani at all. And then at the end also, Chico Conceição. I have nothing against the Conceição family. But dude, every time the same thing. Little dribble, shoot, save. Dribble, shoot, wide. Stop. Paris Saint-Germain have already won the title, so motivation is what it is. But they're held 1-1 away to Nantes on the day they honored the legendary Maxime Bossis. Jules, this is pretty much the A-team from Luis Enrique, no?
Yeah, he just missed no Doué or Barcola, no Hakimi, and no Pacho, and that was it. The rest was it. It's all about the record that they broke, which is Arrigo Sacchi's record with Milan of the most away league games unbeaten, 38. That's 39 now for PSG, which is a wonderful achievement. Wolves' Matheus Cunha is being strongly linked with Manchester United and has a release clause fee of around £62 million. Gab, would that make sense to you?
So, this is something that Mark Ogden and I debate at length in our Keep and Dump Manchester United edition, which I believe is coming out Thursday or Friday this week. I don't think it makes sense. And the reason I don't think it makes sense is there's several reasons. One is he's 25, 62 million for a player at that age who's, had maybe a couple really top seasons. Again, in this version of the transfer window without the long-term upside,
it's a lot
is
of
a
money.
ton of money.
Yeah.
Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, and also this is a guy he's had some good seasons, had some really bad seasons. He was a super highly rated prospect. Obviously, he went to Hertha, went to Atletico Madrid, didn't quite work out. So he's had a lot of ups and downs at big clubs, but he's turned his career around. But mostly at Wolves, he plays behind a center forward. So if you're signing him, Mark was saying, well, he can play center forward. Yeah, maybe he can play center forward, but he's done that before. But he's really produced this year playing in a 10 and an often counter-attacking team behind a big center forward. And when I look at the 10s in the system, Amad Diallo's coming back. He's one of my 10s. I don't like Bruno in that midfield. I assume United are going to bring in some hardcore, high-end midfielder. And so Bruno's going to play number 10.
Yeah.
And so then are you spending this money on a guy who's going to back up Diallo and Bruno? That's the part I don't get.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's better than Amad Diallo in that 10, and Amad can still play as a
wing back?
Yeah, as a wing back, which is a bit of what Amorim did with Kwanda Sporting, which I think can work. But I agree with you, it's a lot of money. I know he's young. Obviously, Cunha's agent is Ruben Amorim's agent, our friend Uncle George, which probably would help.
It's funny how these things happen.
It's funny, isn't it? And I know this is a great season for Cunha, but you're right. It's a great season in a team that has been struggling, where he's the main guy, where the ball comes to him a lot, where everything is built around him. There's a few discipline issues there through the whole season, let's not forget, too.
Yeah.
But I love him as a player, and I think this could work. Not at 62 million. If you can get the price down, then maybe, around 40 is far more... realistic is the wrong word, but probably fairer in terms of price.
I think if you get him down, if you bring in a big center forward to be your main center forward, and then maybe you have him as he can back up the big guy.
Yeah, exactly.
He can be an alternative at the 10. Maybe sometimes he plays, or sometimes Diallo, because you probably need backups at the 10 too, because right now it's Mount and Xerxes if he stays, and Xerxes at 10.
Menu,
even though there might be solution Menu again, but that's Menu, Xerxes. None of these guys have pulled up. Mount's been injured. Maybe, but you'd have to get the price down.
Yeah.
Burnley and Leeds United have both been promoted back to the Premier League. Jules, I don't follow the Championship.
Nope.
So what do I need to know? Reportedly Burnley's manager is your buddy Scott Parker.
Yeah, third promotion with 3 different clubs. It's pretty amazing, really.
Well, not that amazing, because Daniel Farke has also had 3 promotions, albeit with 2 different clubs.
Yeah.
But I read in the Daily Mail that Daniel Farke, Leeds United might be choosing a different manager. Daniel Farke good enough to get you up, but once you're in the big time, you need somebody else. Is this the message?
Because usually it goes down. That's the thing. The seasons there are not, certainly with Norwich at the time, it was not good enough, I guess. 2 very different teams. I mean, the Leeds squad is a Premier League squad, pretty much, when you think about it. The Burnley squad and the Burnley success is built on defense. Incredible, the best defense ever that I've ever seen. 15 goals conceded in 44 league games so far. There's 2 more to go, obviously. But as this beats any of the great defensive we had, albeit not in the Championship, but even in the Premier League or in Italy before. So that's how they got there.
I think Inter Milan went through a season conceding 11 goals.
But not in 44 games. No,
because it's stupid to play 44 games.
That's what I mean. 11 in 38 is not as good as 14 in 15 in
God
44.
intended to make 20-team leagues.
Yeah,
but yes, statistically, I tell you,
do you see what I mean?
Yes.
But is that what's going to happen in the Premier League?
And James Trafford is the keeper, right?
James Trafford is the
keeper.
Who is a
ridiculous
and
goalkeeper.
Maxime Esteve is the centre back. And JJ Watt is obviously a part owner of Burnley, so we like that. And there's another NFL player who's a Leeds.
Yeah.
Or somebody at Leeds.
Some guy at Birmingham, but I don't want to talk about him too.
No, not Birmingham, but
Karen Brady's son, I believe.
Yeah, there's somebody else at Leeds too. Anyway, they've got famous owners or minority owners or whatever too. So it'd be fun. Would both of them stay up next season in the Premier League?
I would assume since the lead squad is Premier League ready, then they're going to stay up.
They have more chances, I think, than Burnley to do so.
Although Burnley have the better dressed manager, assuming Farkas stays, yeah?
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Jonathan Tah has confirmed that he will be leaving Bayer Leverkusen as a free agent this summer. Gabi, he's 29 years old. What sort of market do you think he will have?
So I'm not a huge Jonathan Tah guy, but I think he is really, really good for, I think, in a difficult year.
Yeah.
This year and last, well, obviously last year everything worked out for them, but like again, this has been a difficult year. I think he's been steady. Of course, occasionally he makes mistakes. The fact that he's a free agent, I remember the last time a free agent, a German free agent, moved to a club, maybe a club in Spain. That was Antonio Rudiger. That worked out pretty well, right? Now, would you want to reform the German center back pairing, given all of Germany's successes? I don't know, but I think it's one of the options you have to consider. Maybe Xabi Alonso goes there. I think he's a guy. Those teams, okay. Arsenal are fine with their center backs, but Arsenal are an example, right? You finish second 3 years in a row. How do I make the next step? I don't mind getting an older guy, giving him a big contract, 3-4 years. He's going to put me over the top. I'm sure Arsenal don't need him because they have enough center backs. But a team like that, I think, would be the logic. Every indication is that he's a good pro. He's the kind of guy that, sometimes you see center backs continuing when they're older, 33, 34. I mean, Inter have a whole gaggle of them, right? De Vrij, Acerbi, and so on. Actually, that could be a good landing spot for him as well. He can mentor Jan Bissek in German. Exactly. Why not? I think the world is pretty much his oyster. If he doesn't get too greedy, I think he can pick his team, pick his project. I suspect he's going to wait and see what happens with with Xabi Alonso.
Yeah, of course.
Chelsea cannot mathematically finish below 14th this season.
Yeah,
which
somehow
sounds mad to even say, but that means that they're going to either have to pay Manchester United between 20 and 25 million and make Jadon Sancho a permanent signing, or they can pay Manchester United £5 million and send him back, which is basically a £5 million loan fee. What do you think they'll do, and what should they do, Jules?
Pay the fine. Pay the 5 million. Don't sign him permanently. I'm sorry, I haven't seen enough from him yet. At times, it's been good moments. That curler the other day, great goal. It's not enough. It hasn't been enough, I think, for Jadon Sancho to convince, that's the word, Chelsea to pay £25 million. Even 20 million, I still think is, with the wages that he has, I would not go there. I just don't think he's done enough this season.
Yeah, I disagree. He's got a year left on his contract. If you can get him to sign a contract that you're comfortable with, and obviously he's going to have to take a pay cut. He does not have much leverage, but if you give him a longer term deal on less money, the reality is Chelsea's wingers right now are just as a group not good. You have Nani Madueke, who's very hit or miss. You have Neto, who, other than the fact he can play on both wings, and the fact that he's a short last name, I don't see anything special about him whatsoever. You have Mudryk, who we're going to talk about in a minute, who is suspended, and you have João Felix. Don't forget him, threatening to come back.
Exactly. Yeah, I would not keep Sancho when João Felix is coming back as well. Definitely not.
No, baby, you first of all, you package João Felix and you say, Uncle George, take him away. But I actually, if you can get him on the right price, he's mid-career. I think he's shown flashes. I think he's probably the most technical winger they have, frankly. And if he's motivated and he's happy, if you can get him to sign a deal at the right price, I don't think 20 million, given he's still 25 years old, something like that. I don't think it's a bad deal.
Mikhailo Mudryk hasn't played for Chelsea since November, and he's provisionally suspended after testing positive for a banned substance. Gab, what is he doing to prove his innocence?
So this is interesting. And this is one of my issues with lawyers and the stupid rules the Premier League and the FA have, where they don't say anything. So he tests positive in January. And when you test positive, there's an A sample, and then there's the B sample. The B sample is your count analysis. Essentially, they take one sample, split it in two, and then they test it in two different labs, right? Just to make sure there's no mistake or whatever. Now, all the information we're getting, it doesn't come from Chelsea or the FA or Mudryk's people. It comes from Dimitri Palkin, who's the chief executive of Shakhtar Donetsk, who sold him. Now, he's an interested party, partly because he says he's Mudryk's buddy, partly because Shakhtar Donetsk could get up to 30 million in bonuses based on Mudryk's performances. And his performance has not been good, but they're going to be even worse if he doesn't play, right?
Yeah.
So Palkin's come out. He said that as part of his defense, he took a lie detector test, which sounds slightly hokey. I also wonder who administered it. Like,
I know.
Whatever. Sounds pretty hokey and stupid to me. He took this substance called meldonium, which I believe was a substance that was linked to Maria Sharapova back when it was legal. Yeah. And it is legal in some countries, but not in others. Certainly not legal for in football. According to Palkin, the B sample hasn't been tested yet. Now, again, I could ask them, but they won't tell me because it's all reserved. But how does his A sample get tested in January? What, in the B sample, they just leave it in the fridge somewhere? I don't. Why is there this lack of clarity, this lack of transparency? You test the A sample, a week later you test the B sample. Very simple. If they're both positive, then you have your hearing. Yeah. And then he brings his evidence. Not like 4 months later. Seriously, what happens if the B sample is negative? I mean, assuming Palkin's right, the B sample is negative. What happens then? Who compensates him? Who compensates Chelsea for the 4 months that he's been out? And don't make a joke that he's so rubbish that it's probably good that he's not there, right?
No, I agree.
This just isn't fair. I would love to know how these things, if there's an explanation, guys, if there's a good reason why this is taking so long, come out and tell us. Also back on Monday, go ahead Eagles. Of course, I love that name on so many bases. Not just the Eagles, but it's the go ahead part.
Yeah.
They come from behind to win the Dutch Cup against AZ Alkmaar in the most dramatic way.
Incredible, Gab. They hadn't won a single trophy since 1933. So that's a very long time. They're in the final somehow, and they'll go down and literally...
It's not just a goal down. To go down, it's a penalty from a Spurs player.
Yeah,
Troy
that's
Parrott.
Right. They played AZ Alkmaar, and Troy Parrott scored, who has had a good season for Alkmaar. Scored the penalty. We're playing the 99th minute. There's just no hopes anymore. Or is there? Because they somehow get a penalty after a stupid foul that you got really cross about.
This makes me so angry. So the guy who did it, he's actually Teun Koopmeiner's brother. I don't know if he's younger, older brother. He's certainly the dumber brother. Okay. Now, he's defending. They're defending a corner. Okay, go ahead, Eagles. They're attacking, and the guy's having his shirt pulled. So to make sure that everybody knows he's having his shirt pulled, he decides he's going to jump up in the air and just throw his arms like a freaking rag doll in the air as the cross comes in, right? So obviously the ball ends up hitting his arm, and they give a penalty.
Yeah.
Who does this? It is one of the single dumbest thing. I understand. You want to make sure the referee sees it. You want to make a meal of it. You don't do it by jumping in the air like you've just been ragdolled. It made no sense. So they convert the penalty, and then it goes all the way to
99 minutes. Nothing happened in extra time, and then on the penalty shootout, go ahead Eagles win their first trophy in like 88 years or whatever it was, or 90 years or something. So incredible. But again, that is like mine. Koopmeiners will want to forget pretty quickly.
Go ahead Eagles coach, by the way, Paul Simonis, another in a long tradition of bald Dutch coaches. He used to have some facial hair. Now he's looking more like a thinner, less doughy Arne Slot.
Yeah. Gab, clubs playing the Club World Cup may end up getting less money than promised if FIFA don't strike a deal with the US government. What's going on?
Well, taxes, right? Death and taxes or certainties. So when FIFA organize a World Cup, men's or women's, they normally do a deal with the country so that all the operations, all the prize money and everything is tax exempt, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the bonus. So the idea is the country's going to make up for it because there'll be tourists and stuff and blah, blah, blah. I guess they haven't done it with the Club World Cup, according to the reporting by Matt Hughes in the Daily Mail. And maybe they haven't done it because there wasn't time to do it. This would explain why Gianni Infantino spent so much time in Donald Trump's office and why he even left the Club World Cup trophy there, right next to right next to his desk to remind him that we need to reach some sort of deal. But the thing is, the games, the U.S., not getting too political, these are federal states and they have different laws.
Rules,
and in some, like in Florida, there is no income tax. In others, I think in California, it's as high as 5% for this sort of thing. So depending where you play, if you don't reach a deal, you you may lose millions and millions actually out of your prize money. So they're confident they can work this out. The only thing I would say is the White House is pretty busy. They got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
but
that's for sure.
maybe that's why Johnny is in their face all the time. It's time! It's time! It's Textor time! Jules, our intrepid hero, has decided to fire coach Yannick Ferreira at Molenbeek. By the way, who's not Yannick Ferreira, Carrasco's dad, as I discovered. Now, this happens just a day before entering the promotion playoff. They named the successor. Everybody thought it was going to be Ivan de Camargo, but no! It's Keita Fofana, who I had to check. This is the guy who was really talented when he was very young and then retired early.
Bad ankle injury.
No idea what he was doing, but apparently he's been coaching the Lyon B team.
Yeah,
he's
really
only 33
well.
years old.
Really well. But Textor, who loves sacking a manager because he sacked tons of managers everywhere in Botafogo, in Lyon, in Molenbeek, even at Crystal Palace, although we know he doesn't decide anything at Crystal Palace, but still they've changed a lot of managers. So he loves the sacking. He also loves to promote within because Claudio Cassapa, for example, who the former Lyon player who was involved in the Lyon staff, then went a bit at Botafogo, was a bit at Molenbeek,
and got sacked.
I mean, is he really sacked when he's part of your group and you move him to another part of your group? I'm not sure of that. And for Fofana, it's a chance. They finished top of the table in the second division to go up to they were top for a long time, just missed out on direct promotion, I think, to the top flight in Belgium, so they have to go through the playoffs.
Or third,
Now it was third.
The game is actually in a few hours as we record this on Thursday morning.
Monday. So good luck to Fofana because he's a lovely, lovely, lovely guy, and I think a really good coach in the making.
Well, L'Équipe actually counted the number of managers that he's had. I just want to go through this. This is pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Jesus Gil type stuff, right? So he took over Lyon in May 2023. They've had 6 managers since.
Yeah.
He took over Botafogo in March 2022. They've had 10 managers since. He took on Molenbeek in January 2022. They've had 5 managers since. And he took on, again, as you pointed out, he only owns 45% of the club. So if Palace do something stupid, we can't blame it all on Textor.
Just on him.
Sorry, Steve Parrish and others. You guys got to take, and Blitzer and Harris, you guys got to take responsibility too. But Palace have had 5 since August 2021. Palace, by the way, can we say the best run club out of the 4?
Yeah, probably.
Maybe the one where he just puts the money in, but he doesn't actually make decisions.
Yeah. And sticking with owners, Boavista in Portugal are in danger of being relegated to the second division, also probably going bankrupt, which is quite the fall from grace. And now they need to train 30 kilometers away from where they usually train because the electricity has been turned off over unpaid bills. Our friend Gerard Lopez.
Yeah, so this it's sad. I mean, we remember Boavista going deep in European competition.
Yeah.
I think traditionally, over the last 15 years, they've basically been the fourth force. I know Braga might dispute that. Generally speaking, the fourth. They're the second team from Porto.
Yeah.
After Benfica, Sporting, and Porto, they are the 4th biggest club, but they're on the verge of getting relegated. Now it seems they're not paying bills. They have a dispute. They were with a guy there's a guy they bought from Feyenoord who now is going to go to Real Salt Lake, who they haven't paid for either. That's coming up. And the thing is, it's our friend Gerard Lopez, who I interviewed a few years ago. The interview's up. He speaks very, very well. He's obviously a very bright guy.
Yeah.
Clearly, though, there's a pattern here, and we need to point this out. Lille, he took over. Club on the verge of bankruptcy. They sold them with 120 million worth of debt.
Yeah.
Mouscron, they were bankrupt 2 years after they took over. And of course, Bordeaux, as we've chronicled here many times, he took them over and he lost his license. People keep giving him money to invest in clubs.
Why is he even allowed to buy clubs? Really?
It's in a free market. Like I said, he is a very, very smooth talker. When I went to interview him, he was brilliant. He was engaging. He was interesting. If he'd said, Gab, write me a check now, and I would have probably written him a check. He did not ask me for money. But if he had, I would have given it to him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he makes bad bets.
Yeah.
But I think the real story for me is Boavista, the players, the fans having to deal with this nonsense. This is so stupid, but it just won't go away. So we have to deal with it. We made fun of CONMEBOL President Alejandro Dominguez for suggesting that the 2030 World Cup should have 64 participating teams to mark the centenary. A vote is coming soon. Saudi Arabia's sports minister says, well, if you can't have 64 teams in 2030, his country would have no problem hosting 64 in 2034 because most of it is desert, so there's lots of room.
Lots of room.
I'm flabbergasted.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Saudi and the sports minister, the more people come, the more teams you have. Yeah, if you want to, no problem. I think you could then brag to have hosted the biggest World Cup ever, that kind of stuff. But from a football point of view, we've said it before, it would really means it would be stupid. There would have no sense at all to have that many teams. That means everybody pretty much qualifies in the world. What would be the format for how long? Is it 6-month World Cup or something? Like it just would not work. And for players who play already too much in the season, especially the ones who are going to go to the World Cup, then you add more games. Like I can see why why not? We can do it, no problem. It's more money for them too, but come on.
They would say, well, Jules, but you're only adding one more game, right?
Yeah, true. But
we haven't even had, I think Victor Montoyani, the CONCACAF president, came out against this. Alexander Sheffrin, the UEFA president, came out against this. If you wanted to do something mad for 2030 and say, look, it's special, and I think from Dominguez's perspective, that, they're part of the Centenary World Cup, but they're only getting 3 games, right?
Yeah.
So I can kind of possibly see the argument, but bro, you need to plan this.
Yeah.
You need to plan this well in advance. This is 5 years away, the 2030 World Cup. And the other guy pops up with 2034. Sure, more the merrier. It's completely silly, and it's not going to happen.
A group of Arsenal fans have launched a Visit Tottenham campaign. What is this all about, Gab?
So this draws attention. So obviously, as you know, since 2018, Arsenal have had this somewhat uncomfortable Visit Rwanda sponsorship. The UK government has suspended foreign aid to Rwanda because of what's going on in the Congo and suggestions from the United Nations that the Rwandan government is supporting the rebels and that are causing a lot of strife there, actually. And so there's a lot of people who've been against this for a long time, and they've made a video, and there's a billboard outside the stadium basically saying, like, guys, do not visit Rwanda. We don't want to have this. And to kind of turn it into humor, they said, visit Tottenham instead. We would rather you visited Tottenham. Obviously, Tottenham, Arsenal's big North London rival. I think I think there's a year to run on this sponsorship. Personally, I think Arsenal will be very happy when the sponsorship expires and they can get a different sponsor.